My top 5 books and why I recommend them. The Bible, the greatest leadership book written. Servant Leadership, The Towel and the Basin. Blue Ocean Strategy and Blue Ocean Shift. Move from the what is Blue Ocean to how to implement Blue Ocean. How to create uncontested market space. Shift from competing to creating. I must read. Why Leaders Eat Last. It's not about being in charge, but taking care of those in your charge. That is what Simon Sinek speaks of. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And COVID actually addressed character building. Who Moved My Cheese? How to be adaptable, flexible. The only constant is change. Spencer Johnson. Great book, still standing after 1999. And I recommend this highly. These are 5 great books. Put them in your collection. These 5 books, I'm going to talk about not just what I've learned, but the greatest lessons is what they taught me. The first one is the Bible. It's more about what I've unlearned from them than what I've learned. Very important. You have to empty before you can refill. The Bible, the greatest leadership book that's ever written. It's a story of servant leadership. The towel and the basin. How to wash others' feet and wipe them. And this is the highest form of service. The inversion principle actually comes from the Bible. The way up is the way down. And I recommend this book highly. Please, it will shape your mindset. Number 2, and it comes in 2 parts. The Blue Ocean Strategy in 2005 by Renee Chan Kim and Renee Morburn. W. Chan Kim and Renee Morburn. The first one is, what is Blue Ocean? The second one is the how to create blue oceans. I came into contact with this book on a flight from LA to New Zealand. And this is one of the books I picked up in the airport to keep my company. I bought 4 other books. I did not even look at them because I read this twice before my flight landed. The Blue Ocean Strategy is a book how to create uncontested market space and make the competition irrelevant. We are trained to think, to compete. In other words, for me to get something more, somebody else has to die. Well, this book is teaching me, leave the red ocean, the bloody waters of the red ocean, and swim to the blue ocean where nothing is guaranteed. But if I make a catch, I can hit it big. And this book was very interesting, but it speaks to the why of blue oceans. And then, in 2018, the same authors, W. Chan Kim and Renee Morburn, came out with a sequel, Blue Ocean Shift. And this is the how to do it. How do you think? How do you change the landscape through your thoughts? The book speaks of 5 steps, 5 key steps, but I like to summarize them to 3 steps. The first is to understand your industrial landscape. Very, very important. And you start with this because Aristotle said, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So when you place a picture, which is a canvas, a painting of what your industry competes on. And then the second point is how to put your team together. And that is where you understand. When you understand, the next step is to imagine. Imagine who your customers could be. Your non-customers. There are 3 tiers of non-customers, most important. Because if you look at just the customers, your market is small. You want to know why your non-customers, and that's usually a much bigger market. And that's the market to look at, your non-customers. And of course, the next point is very critical, the pain points. Pain points are not limitations. They are hidden opportunities. Go for them, strike them. They are hidden opportunities, and you need to find them, confront them, borrow ideas from other industry, and then you can solve them. And the third point is create. How to create. There are 6 ways to create a new blue ocean. And it talks about the 6-path framework. You're going to go through those steps and you find, I'm sure you can find a blue ocean in any business as long as you look not just in the industry, but you look beyond your problem to see opportunities to import. So these 2 top recommendations. Outside of the Bible, these are the most transformative books I've read, and I recommend them. Read the sequel. You go from strategy to shift. The third book I'd like to recommend is Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last, Why Some Teams Pull Together and Others Don't. In his investigation of leadership, gave some very interesting perspective. And he talked about finite and infinite games. Because it's very interesting. He talks about what perspective, because we should aim to be in the infinite game. A finite game is defined like a game of football. An infinite game he spoke of, like the Cold War. There's no winner and loser. It's who run out of will or resources. And so we should aim strategically at fighting infinite games. Simon took a very innovative perspective describing leadership from 4 chemicals, primary chemicals in our bodies. 2, what he called the selfish chemicals, and 2, the selfless chemicals. The selfish are endorphin, which speaks to the runner's high, dopamine, which speaks to that of achievement, and serotonin, which speaks to leadership. That's what makes you want to take charge. And of course, oxytocin, the 4th one, is love, the chemical, the friendship and bond. And these 4 put together create the whole how we lead. And the failure of these to come together determine the failure of leadership. He talks about just cause, a cause that we are prepared to live for or prepared to die for, a cause that is bigger than us. And when this drives an organization, it makes a difference. And a good example is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs had a just cause, and he saw an individual standing up to Big Brother. In other words, an individual who could stand up to the status quo and challenge it. Because his vision, his just cause, was one day to see an individual who could stand up and compete with a corporation. And that was what the computer did. It leveled the playing field and gave that's the just cause. And it talks about leadership is not about being in charge, but taking care of those in your charge. Very, very interesting perspective and a must read. And this gives you another perspective on leadership. And I recommend it highly, by Simon Sinek. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey is a good read, and I recommend it because for years I had this book in my bookshelf and didn't see it to read because I thought it was too mainstream and cliche. Until I read the book and realized it's a character transformation book. This book is about transforming me from the inside out, and I recommend this. It talks about begin with the end in mind, and that's critical. You must see your destination before you take your first step. Otherwise, you're bound for failure. You have to taste and smell victory before you start. That's very, very, very interesting. Very effective. Synergize. The law of synergy. 1 + 1 = 3. You put your input together to multiply your output. That's very, very important. So I recommend this book highly. And Covey actually spoke to these that you can adjust your character and then you can shape yourself into a winner. Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. 1999 book, still relevant. Very, very effective and quite a deep book. About 4 characters. 2 were mice and 2 were little people. And it talks about finding your way in a maze, which is what life is. And this book I recommend because we can find ourselves between different poles. About being pessimistic and about being optimistic. And this book is about the mind. How do you shape your mind? Very, very important. And life is a mind game. And the strongest mind wins. One of the central theme throughout the book is how to be adaptable. Change is the only thing that remains constant. That is where that came from. If you change what you believe, you change what you do. And if you don't change, you could become extinct. These are some of the foundation principles that run throughout the book. Darwin said, it's not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but it's the most adaptable. I recommend it's a great read. 2 mice, but they could adapt. 2 little people. One eventually learned how to adapt, and the other kept looking for the cheese in the old place. And life changes. And as we said, the only change is constant. I recommend it. Go catch a copy. Read it.